Well, you must have got that Python is a very interesting programming language, right? And when on our previous session, on our previous video, we have made some Python programs, you must have noticed that I have used a few things. Like when we were taking input from the user, I have written int over there. And inside this int, I have written the values, or I have written the input statement, right? Or maybe in some questions, I have used float. Now, there must be a question, that is, what is this int and what is this float, and what is the actual role of this int and float in Python programming? Now, just to understand the role of these two things, today we are going to learn a very important concept of any programming language, that is data types in Python. So in this video, we will explore about the data types. Hello everyone, you are watching Computorial In and this is Tuple, and this is our series Python Reloaded, and it is the next part where we'll talk about the data types. Now without any further ado, let's get started. For understanding these data types, we have to understand a chart first of all, okay? So I'll make that chart and explain it to you guys as well. So please do listen to me very carefully. If we talk about data types in Python, these are categorized in three forms. We have three categories that we need to understand. The first category that we have is called as the basic types. The second category is considered as the container type. And the third is called as the user defined type. Okay. And these are actually three most important categorizations that you all need to know, because many times I have found that students, they do learn Python programming in detail, but they don't know about any of these type, like what is a basic type value, what is a container type value, and what is a user defined type value. Okay, so if we talk about these three values one by one, the first we have is basic type values. In basic type values, we have all of those data types in which you can store single values. It means if I just talk about values or data types like int, float, or let's say we have one more special type in Python called as complex. Then we have a type called as Boolean. Then we have string values. Okay, we'll talk about all of these terms just now in detail. Okay, so we have these few things, and we have one more that is called as bytes. All of these six types that I have listed just now. Now this Boolean is written as bool in Python. It is written as bool in Python. Okay, so all of these six categories that I have written just now, these are called as the basic types in Python. The first type that we have is int. Let's talk about this int type first of all. If I talk about this int type, whenever we have any integer value, what do we have? Whenever we have any integer value, it means it can be any positive or any negative number, including zero, all such numbers can be termed as integer values. The condition is that integer cannot store the numbers with fractional points or decimal points. It means, let's say if I say I have a number 2, or if I have a number 3, minus 4 or minus 9, all such numbers can be integer values. The second categorization that we have is the important one is float. If I talk about float means numbers with decimal value. Well, decimal value here simply means that, let's assume we have the value of pi 3.14, or we have gravity 9.8, and similarly we have n number of terms in mathematics or in physics or in chemistry where we use these kind of numbers with decimal places. Okay, let's assume you have divided 5 by 2, and we'll all know that when we will divide it, the answer will be 2.5. In this answer as well, we have a number with a decimal value. Okay, we have a decimal point. All such numbers can be termed as the float values. Next is bool. If we are storing the number in two states, or if we are storing a value in two states, that is true or false, for such a case we will use the bool type. Next we have string. When you have characters or set of characters, it is called as a string. Now string can be anything that you have made with alphabets, that is A to Z, or small a to small z, or numbers like 0 to 9, or all these special symbols. It can be termed as a string value, and generally all of these string values are written either inside double quotes or inside single quotes, or sometimes inside triple quotes as well in Python. So we will discuss about this data type more detail in a special video, special chapter, that is of strings. So for this one we have an entire chapter, that is string chapter. इसके बारे में हम लोग string वाले chapter में detailed discussion करेंगे. After this we have one more important category called as the complex one. So it is specifically for all those my favorite students, those who have opted mathematics in class 10. It's in class 10 plus 2 basically, because you must have seen that we have a special categorization of numbers in arithmetic that is called as complex numbers. These complex numbers are in the form of a plus ij, so ib. In this, a is the real part and b is the imaginary part. This is the concept of mathematics. So those who want to understand about this concept, they can learn a bit mathematics of class 11th or class 12 standard, they will get this thing. And if you are not from the mathematics standard, I will suggest you to skip this portion for a while. Just skip this complex number portion and you can join us with the next categorization of data types. Okay, so these complex numbers, they have two values, real value or imaginary value. Okay, let's assume you were calculating the square root of any number, and the answer that you have got is something like this: 2 plus under root minus 3. Okay, so now this kind of value that we have got just now, it can be written in the form of complex number. We can say that this value is 2 plus under root 3 I. It can be written in the form of complex number. The same value can be expressed in Python as well, but not in the form of a plus ij. In Python it is written like a plus jb. Okay, so the role of I is taken by j in Python. Now in mathematics, this I is called as iota, which stands for under root minus 1, and the same is here in Python as well. This j is the same thing, iota, that is under root minus 1. Okay, so these are the most commonly used data types that we have in Python. Now let's talk about the next categorization. Next we have the container type values. If I talk about the container type values, it simply means that those categories, those value types in which we can store more than one number. Okay, let me give you some examples first of all. Okay, if you see, if I am writing a equals to 3, or if I have written a equals to 3.5, or if I have written let's say n equals to hello, in all of these values you all can see that we have stored only one single value, right? This a was storing a single value, this b was storing a single value, this n was storing a single value. Now let's assume we want to make a variable. Let's assume the variable is c, and in the c variable we want to store multiple numbers. We want to store like values like 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we want to store these 4 numbers all together in a particular value type. For all such categories, the data types that we will use are called as the container types. In the container types we have 4 categories. We have list, we have tuple, we have sets and dictionaries. Okay, these are the 4 categories that we have in Python for the container type values. Now let's talk about all of these types in detailed manner. If I talk about the list, now let me tell you one more thing. For all of these 4 categories, that is list, tuple, set and dictionary, we will have separate videos in detail that we will cover in the later half part of the session or this video series. So you have to wait till then, but I will give you an introduction for now. In Python, whenever you have to store multiple values, you can store all these values either in list, tuple, dictionary or set. When you store values in list, we use these brackets. These are the rectangular brackets. Inside these we can write our values like this. And the best thing is that we can also store values of multiple types. Like let's say I have written this. I have written a number, a message and another number like this. So we can store all these values in a list category. Tuple is similar to a list. We have some minor differences that we will discuss in our next video. So in tuples, we have to use these brackets. We have to use parentheses in place of the rectangle brackets, and rest it is conceptually same. We have one minor difference. In list, modification of value is possible, but in tuples, modification of values is not possible. Next we have set. In list and dictionary, in list and tuples, you can repeat the values n number of times. Let's say I have a list like this. So this will work properly without any issue, but this is not actually correct in case of sets. Well, this set is similar to the sets that we have in mathematics, and all the students of class 11th mathematics, you all must have heard about this concept of sets. Sets are generally written inside the curly brackets, and they doesn't allow the repetition of values. At last we have dictionary type. Dictionary type, we use the same brackets, but in these we have a pair of value. We have a key and then we have a value. So these dictionaries are written like this. Let's assume I have a key A and the value is, let's say, Ram. The second key was B and let's suppose the value was Anant, and so on. Okay, let's assume we have one more value C with the value Vashisht or anything else. Okay, so this can be stored in a dictionary format. So these are the 4 container types that we have in Python. Okay, and for each of these category we will have a separate video in the coming sessions, so you have to wait till then. Now the last category, the most important one I would say, and इसको एक अलग से concept की तरीके advanced Python में हम लोग सीखते हैं. It is a part of advanced Python, that is class. So we will not talk about this now, but in the upcoming sessions, once we will finish both of these categories, the only focus of these Python series will be on the class concepts only then. Now in Python, these data types that we have used, that we are seeing, that's int, float, complex or list, tuple, set, everything is stored in the form of a class in Python. Every data type, it is a very interesting concept. Each of these are defined inside the Python classes, and in the upcoming sessions we will see how these classes will actually work. So if you have found this video informative one, I will suggest you guys to please stick with us and do subscribe us, because I have found that many of you are not subscribing our channel much. Well, subscription is not the biggest issue for us, but your support and your love is what we actually need. So thank you for watching this video, guys. I will share some more content in the upcoming sessions. Till then, do share our channel with your friends so that we can have a larger audience in the coming lectures. Plus, if you have liked the video, press the like button. If you haven't subscribed us yet, go and subscribe our channel just now. And thank you for watching Computorial In.